One thing to say about change. Change can feel really, really, really scary. Especially if in the past, anytime you've tried to change, people have given you a lot of change back messages. Or they've treated you like, you don't know what you're talking about. Or you don't deserve anything good. Or you're there to serve them. So embracing change or moving towards change can feel really, really, really terrifying. What's a cool thing about change, though, is this. The closer you get to changing, the more possibilities there are that change will happen. So, they did a bunch of studies. And what they realized is this. Change is not just about today I'm this and tomorrow I'm that. Or today I feel this way and tomorrow I feel that way. Change is actually a long, long, long process that's kind of got invisible stuff at the beginning and stuff that we feel like doesn't really matter at the end. So when we think about changing, we just focus on oh my God, I have to do things differently, right? That's the middle piece. What comes at the beginning is the part where you don't actually realize you have to change. It's just something feels not quite right. You ever had that? Where you feel like, I'm sure you have, where you go, oh, gee, something's not right here. It doesn't fit with who I am and what I'm about, or it's not the way I would do things, or that just feels mean. That's not right. I don't like that, right? That is the first part of the change process, is noticing something's not quite right here. So you might want to sit down and write up a list of all the things in your day today, that feel like they're just not quite right. Because these will all become potential places for change. The next stage to change happens when you have a heightened awareness of these places that don't feel quite right. Where all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, that's really not right. Now I know the difference between it feels kind of funny to, you know what, this isn't right. I'm not liking this. This isn't working. I gotta get out of here. This doesn't work anymore. This is not what I want to have happen. So a stronger identification. That's when you can say to yourself, aha, I know that this is a place where change has to happen. So increased awareness. The next stage that comes after that is you actually get committed to making a change. You identify the change, and then you say, oh, okay, I'm going to actually do something about it. And you'd think that that's the time that change actually happens, but it's not. There's something that happens first. And what happens before that is you start imagining what could happen with all these changes. So you start imagining the way that your life could be different. You start imagining solutions. You start imagining how you would be different in the world. And that's a really, really cool stage to be in. That's a stage of unlimited possibilities if you want it to be. That's a stage where you get to pick and choose based on your intuition and based on what resources you might have available. You get to pick and choose at that stage what stage or what change, what course of change what course of change you're going to follow, right? So you get to evaluate some of the possibilities. So for example, you're thinking to yourself, oh God, I have to get a car. I really, really need a car. Well, guess what? You get to imagine all the different kinds of possibilities for getting that car. And this is a great thing to do with a friend or do with somebody else who's in group with you. You can sit and you can brainstorm all the different kinds of cars, all the different ways of getting a car that you can come up with. Anything goes, right? Anything goes, because it's just brainstorming. After you've brainstormed, you get to go back and evaluate which one of those possibilities, those amazing possibilities, might actually work for you. And that's when, once you've made a commitment to one of those possibilities, when you've said, you know what, out of all the 40 things we thought about, I think this one's going to work for me. That's when you actually get to start making a plan. Right? You still have to make the plan before you can actually change anything. See, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen before you actually make a change, right? That most of the time is invisible. So you make a plan. And making a plan involves looking around to see who can help you, looking around to see what are your resources, looking around to see what is it you can actually do and what is it you can't actually do. It's also about figuring out what are the limits and what are the boundaries and where you can be more imaginative. So if you have to work with a bureaucracy, you want to see what the rules of that bureaucracy are so that you can decide how it is you're gonna navigate that, how it is you're gonna negotiate through that process. So you can create the best plan possible for you. Once you've got your plan in place, you actually start doing it, right? This is a piece that sometimes people completely forget about. They go, oh, I've got my plan, and, well, now I'm not going to do it, right? Because sometimes doing it is actually a little bit harder than planning it. Doing it, you can do it better, more effectively with a plan. To do it more effectively with your plan, you need to break it down into tiny little steps. Tiny little steps. And I'm sure you've heard other people talk about how to do that in tiny little steps, so I won't spend any time on that. The other piece that happens after the change, right, is actually maintaining the change. How do you maintain the change? If the change feels good, you might want to maintain it. If the change doesn't feel good, again, important to navigate by joy, right? If it feels good, if it's serving you, if you're benefiting from it, if good stuff is starting to happen, then you might want to stick with that change. So you need to start thinking about, at that point, evaluating the change and thinking about how to keep it going, how to maintain it. And usually the hardest part is in making the plan and starting to take the actions. It gets easier as we go through it, right? As we get to maintaining.